Hi there. I'm Rose, and today I'm ranking Disney's live-action remakes up to 2025. After spending months reading about the Russian Revolution and then about Neil Gaiman, I needed a break. Ranking a bunch of possibly subpar Disney remakes sounded both lovely and mindless. I was curious, too. I had seen a few of these before, but mostly I had let them just sail on by. Maybe they weren't all as bad as people had said. The real surprise was finding out that some of them were actually pretty good. This turned out to be a surprisingly fun task. Taken together, this is a motley assortment of movies by different directors and screenwriters. It was interesting to rank these as a group because it meant hopping from one writer and director to another, but all in the context of Disney movie remakes. Disney has been releasing live-action film versions of their animated films for a while now. This proved, mostly, to be a very successful decision financially for Disney, with several of these remakes making over $1 billion at the box office. But these remakes have also faced a bit of controversy, since many of them engage in multi-ethnic casting, and some became tremendous flops. It's tempting to point to the live-action films as evidence that Disney has stagnated and is just rehashing old material as a perpetual cash machine. However, I don't think Disney was initially quite this jaded. For each remake, they hired experienced writers and directors, and I think that they gave these filmmakers a pretty wide mandate to do whatever they wanted, as long as it retained some of the original flavor. Every single film was helmed by talented creators. I think Disney really intended these remakes to be artistic reinterpretations of the originals. However, the actual results were quite mixed. I'm going to try and rank these movies based on the strength of the film. I am not a purely objective viewer, and I find race swaps as distracting as the next person, since these are ostensibly remakes of classic Disney films. But most of the time the person's acting abilities mattered more than their color. So today I'm going to rank Disney's live-action remakes. I'm going in descending order of quality, starting with the best of them, because it was something of a progression to get to the worst. Also, I'm excluding the Disney offshoots, films that were related to older films but which were not themselves direct remakes. So, Maleficent, Cruella, and the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland films. Only direct remakes were considered here. Here we go. My ranking of the Disney live-action remakes as of 2025. Starting with the best of these, at number 1 was Cinderella from 2015, directed by Kenneth Branagh and starring Lily James. This was the best of the live-action remakes. It was one of the earliest, and it is by this standard the rest will be judged. It mostly just goes downhill from here, unfortunately. This was a beautifully made movie. The whole thing has a feeling of weight to it, of craft. This is maybe the only film in the set that feels like it took itself seriously as a movie. It was beautifully shot. There are scenes that evoke paintings, like the dark Dutch masters and landscape paintings. The film uses light to make people glow a little bit. Lily James is often glowing. Happy people are lit so that they glow a little bit. This is a nice bit of craft. It makes it feel like a fairy tale. Whoever thought of using light here did a really nice job. The interior of Ella's house is gorgeous, and all the dresses are amazing. Cate Blanchett as the stepmother is fabulous. Cinderella was good in a beautiful, blithely ignorant way. Everyone in it was good. The music was good. Lily James was good. And there really wasn't a single thing wrong with this movie. I thought it was enchanting. It was a pleasure to come back to this movie after watching some of the others, as it really emphasized the quality in this film and what was lacking in the rest. Cinderella was made with quality in every frame, and it has the effect of making the rest of them feel a bit perfunctory. The rest of the live-action remakes have a vague sense about them, like they don't take themselves seriously, and are somewhat apologetic about that. Cinderella is in a different league. Going to number 2, we have Aladdin, directed by Guy Ritchie. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels Guy Ritchie, who seems to have had a grand old time heading up a big old-fashioned Hollywood musical. While it might seem strange for someone like Guy to helm Aladdin, he has also directed music videos practically forever, so this isn't really that big of a leap. Ritchie also co-wrote the screenplay, and this was a big, fun old movie. I saw this in the theater when it came out, and I enjoyed it. It's grand and colorful and energetic. The film stars Mina Massoud as Aladdin and Naomi Scott as Jasmine. They are absolutely charming together and act as the center of the rest of the film. I liked Will Smith's Genie, with Will Smith firmly in Hitch mode. They didn't mess with the story much aside from giving Jasmine her own song and a desire to rule her own kingdom. But it's a fun, big, charming Hollywood musical that I enjoyed very much. Next to number 3, a surprising choice that I didn't think would be at the top of this list, Tim Burton's Dumbo from 2019. While I'm inclined to give Tim Burton the benefit of the doubt, his films can be hit or miss, and I had heard nothing about this movie but how melancholy it was. This film takes the original Dumbo as an almost literal jumping-off point, and continues where the original film left off, with Dumbo signing a deal to go off and be famous. Here, he is signed by a Walt Disney look-alike and taken to perform at a Disneyland stand-in called Dreamland. I had never really wondered what a Tim Burton-designed Disneyland would look like, but here you get to see it, and it's glorious. The Disney stand-in is an exploitative guy who exploits Dumbo until Dumbo flies free to rejoin his mother. So, you know that feeling when you watch a bad live-action Disney remake and you think, Disney is done, they should just give up and walk away? At the climax of the film Dumbo, they burn their copy of Disneyland to the ground. They burn it to the ground. I was shocked to see this in a Disney movie. I think they allowed it because it looks amazing. Tim Burton's Dreamland is kind of an ad for Disneyland, even when it's on fire. The Dumbo movie is running at a couple of different levels here. Dumbo himself is exploited, and the film points a not exactly subtle finger at Disney as the exploiter, both of the previous film Dumbo and of their talent, like Dumbo himself. I can't say this is a great movie, but it is a pretty good Tim Burton movie, where the whole thing is a gigantic commentary on both the good and the bad at Disney. Down to number 4, Pete's Dragon from 2016, directed and co-written by David Lowery. This is a remake of a movie I think a lot of people haven't seen, Pete's Dragon from 1977. I watched the original as a kid. It's a movie about a boy with a dragon friend who could turn invisible. When visible, he was a pink and green animated dragon in an otherwise live-action movie. The original was also a musical with songs that were pretty good for the time. It was a solid musical about a boy and his sometimes invisible dragon. David Lowery, who's probably best known for the absolutely phenomenal film A Ghost Story, was given a chance to run the remake of Pete's Dragon on a tiny $65 million budget. The remake moves the film into the dense woods of the Pacific Northwest and makes the dragon, Elliot, a giant green fuzzy beast, designed by Weta Digital. The new Pete's Dragon is a beautiful meditation on the unknown. It essentially pits fear and destruction against nature. It really is a lovely movie. It was shot in New Zealand, and the forests have a kind of ethereal beauty, like they're the last refuge from man. The dragon, Elliot, has raised Pete in the forest since he was a little kid, until Pete is found by loggers and taken back to civilization. Unlike a lot of the Disney remakes, I feel like I can see every penny of their budget on the screen. Every piece of the production looks great. It also paired with a great soundtrack, which pulls you into the sense of wonder. This takes me to number 5, which was also directed by David Lowery, Peter Pan and Wendy from 2023, which was released on Disney+. Disney must have been pretty happy with his work on Pete's Dragon because they rehired Lowery back for another remake, this time on Peter Pan. Lowery co-wrote this adaptation as well, and while a ton of folks didn't like this adaptation, I liked it a lot. This is not a straight adaptation of Peter Pan. This version presents a Peter Pan who acts like a sociopathic alien who kidnaps children and who is vehemently opposed to the idea of growing up. I can completely understand those who dislike this movie as a faithless adaptation. It's dark, it's philosophical, and it very nearly turns Peter Pan into a villain. But you know, I'm there for it. I'm with Wendy on this one, who becomes the foil to Peter Pan, arguing for the value of the voyage into adulthood. In its own way, it's actually very close to the source material by making the counter-argument about growing up. It's like the flip side of Neverland. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. I liked the fancy directorial flourishes. I liked the writing. I liked every scene they did with the shadows. I liked the girl who played Wendy, Ever Anderson, daughter of Mila Jovovich. I think I'm a fan of David Lowery as a filmmaker now, and I'm willing to go where he goes. Next down the list, we go to the big release, Beauty and the Beast from 2017. This film was massively anticipated, as it was the remake of one of the greatest Disney movies ever made. This movie did a lot of things right. Casting Emma Watson was a genius move. You're not just casting Emma Watson as Beauty, you're casting the one and only Hermione Granger as Beauty. The curiosity factor alone meant this was a great move. It honestly didn't matter that she couldn't sing. Just having Hermione as Belle was the win. I don't think people really consciously understood the marketing power of this, but it was really smart. And I sincerely hope that Emma Watson got a share of the box office, as this was one of the 3 live-action remakes that passed the $1 billion mark, along with Aladdin and The Lion King. Was this Beauty and the Beast good? It was an event when it came out, something to go see in the theater. Watching it again now, I appreciate it for the spectacle that it was, but it's missing a lot behind its gilded facade. The computer graphics got stuck on the edge of the uncanny valley, where any face given to the computers just looks off. The Beast looks weird, and Lumiere looks worse. They tried to make the furniture look like furniture, and it never quite works for the characters. I don't think any of the actors here are well suited to their roles either, except maybe Josh Gad as LeFou. So while it's a fun watch, it's simultaneously a bit cringy as everyone seems off in their parts. Dan Stevens, Emma Watson, yeah, they're just okay. This movie would have ranked higher if it didn't feel just a little bit off in every scene. Going down the list to the next one is Lady and the Tramp, released in 2019 on Disney+. I actually quite enjoyed this movie, with a few small reservations. I'm not a dog person, so I'm not the ideal audience here, but I enjoyed this film. They actually used real dogs along with some CG, and the use of real animals helped a lot. They did a nice job seamlessly blending the CG and the real animals together. My biggest issue was that Disney thought it would be cool to have Beauty's owners be a mixed-race couple in what is clearly supposed to be the South, in a year somewhere around 1920. This is super problematic, as mixed-race marriage was illegal in the South until 1967. Disney is trying to force some race-blending alternate history here, like it's a fantasy. But I thought people were against rewriting history just because they wanted to. The movie removed the song for the Siamese cats, as it was a bit racist, replacing it with a new one. The movie also takes out all of the Tramp's previous girlfriends. Now the Tramp is just a single dog who doesn't want to be tied down. So the Tramp isn't a tramp in this movie. But you know, it works. Him as a lone wolf plays just fine here. And I adore Janelle Monáe's version of He's a Tramp. Fabulous. I love her as Peg, and Benedict Wong as Bull. I always forget Wong is actually British. I liked Tessa Thompson's take on Lady especially. She gives the character kindness, but also strength. It's a combination mostly missing in this list. But this was a good-looking movie that was competently made with characters I enjoyed. Next is 101 Dalmatians from 1996. This gets an honorary place in the list as it was a live-action remake of the original Disney animated film made back in the 90s. The screenplay is by the great John Hughes of Breakfast Club and Home Alone fame. This is a kids' movie from an era when Disney still took these movies seriously, so it is a well-made, well-written, and well-directed movie. Is it full of pratfalls and hijinks? Yes, it is. But by gum, this is a well-made movie. Glenn Close is frankly brilliant as Cruella de Vil. Her costumes look great, and her makeup looks great. I can't remember the last time I saw an actor enjoy villainy more. It was a treat to watch her. Her minions were played by Hugh Laurie and Mark Williams, or Dr. House and Mr. Weasley as they were later known, and they make a great pair of criminals. Since this is from 1996, they used real Dalmatians, including hundreds of super cute Dalmatian puppies. These dogs were also incredibly well trained. They also didn't have any of the animals talk in this movie, which was honestly a relief after all the other talking animals in this list. Next on the list is the Little Mermaid remake from 2023. This movie fought an uphill battle from the start by casting a black Little Mermaid with Halle Bailey. This was probably always going to be a big ask, getting the audience to support a black mermaid. Considering you're recasting an iconic character and one of the greatest Disney heroines ever drawn, The girl playing Ariel would have to be either the best young black actress of her generation or the greatest singer, or the audience would never support this. Most, it turns out, wouldn't support it anyhow. Somehow this movie cost $380 million to make, not including marketing, so even with a $560 million box office, it still lost money. Was the movie any good? The biggest problem was actually the pacing. The movie is an eye-watering 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Compare this to the original movie's 1 hour and 23 minutes, and it means the new one is almost a full hour longer than the original. This pacing kills the story. Where the original was a light, fun, animated story, the live-action one became a long, bloated mess. The movie was boring. Maybe a better actress could have helped, but probably not. Too often, Bailey was bland and expressionless. She had moments of charm, but not enough to save this thing. This movie needed a movie star, and while Halle is a decent singer, a movie star she is not. Melissa McCarthy was surprisingly fun as Ursula. I think the movie picked up a bit when she came in. Still, I can't recommend this movie. I wanted to, but the movie just doesn't work. It's boring. Next, we go to the live-action Mulan from 2020. I know I watched this movie when it came out on streaming, but I'd honestly forgotten everything about it. Did you know this version has a witch sorceress who could change into a bird? I had completely forgotten her. I'd forgotten they took out all the songs, too, for the live-action one. This Mulan seems closer to a bad, low-budget action flick than a remake of Mulan. New Mulan is a warrior, where old Mulan knew nothing about fighting before running off to join the army in the place of her father. New girl boss Mulan lacks anything resembling the weaknesses of the original character, and replaces her with the action movie hero Mulan. You know what you get when you take away all a heroine's weaknesses? You get nothing. There is no character without flaws. Hence why this movie is completely forgettable. It is a movie about a character who is not a character. Also, they keep talking about how Mulan has so much chi in this one, which is just a weird thing to say. They also say that only men should wield chi, which has got to be news to all the old people doing Tai Chi classes in the park. Every time they talk about Mulan's chi, I picture a Tai Chi class full of old ladies. Next on the list is the live-action Lilo and Stitch. I actually went to see this in the theater with my sister. I had high hopes for this movie. I loved the original, and I thought a live-action Lilo would be a slam dunk. The trailers and marketing were all very heavy, as Stitch is the cute tiny blue alien. It's set in Hawaii, so there should be some stunning shots of tropical island beaches and mountains. And it's about sisters. It really seemed like it couldn't miss. So what did they do? They make the entire film about Lilo's sister, Nani. Lilo becomes a secondary character, and Stitch might as well just be a dog. Nani is the center and focus of this movie. She had to skip college to take care of Lilo, who here is a bratty little kid with a weird dog. This clearly cannot be allowed to stand, so Nani hands off Lilo to a neighbor at the end of the movie and goes off to San Diego to study marine biology, since, as you know, marine biology cannot be studied from Hawaii. The motto of the movie, Ohana means family, gets shot to hell in this version. I regret seeing this in the theater. I dislike this movie more and more as time goes by. I don't like what it stands for or what it says, and I'm really tired of the lesson that personal happiness is the only real goal, above family or obligation. This is what men say when they walk out on their wives and kids. And you don't even get beautiful Hawaiian vistas. Somehow the whole movie takes place on dusty backroads in the middle of nowhere. This is amazing because everywhere in Hawaii is beautiful. Finding a corner that isn't actually takes some work. Next step down the ladder is the live-action Lion King. It was one of the 3 on this list that made $1 billion in the box office, so people definitely went to go see it. But the computer-generated lions did absolutely nothing for me. This is not live action by any sense of the word. It's still very much an animated film, but with the animals looking nominally like real animals. But they don't really look like real animals either. Watching it again, I realized that all the animals look like taxidermy. They all kind of look dead. The film's director, Jon Favreau, wanted to make them look less cartoony. But real animals do have expressions. Anyone who's ever watched a cat knows that cats have thousands of facial expressions. Most animals are really fun to watch live. Not so in this movie. Scar is so beat up he actually looks like a lion skin that's just kind of wandering around. This movie was an ugly, vacant cash grab that had nothing to recommend it. Next down is The Jungle Book, also directed by Jon Favreau. I was partway into this movie before I realized that I'd watched it before. It was so forgettable, I actually forgot that I had already watched it once. I know there are a lot of people who love this movie, and I honestly wish I could see what they see here. For me, this movie is painfully boring. I don't care about any of the computer-generated animals. I don't care about Bill Murray's Baloo or Christopher Walken's gigantic King Louie. This movie is like a nature screensaver for me. I don't know, maybe I just don't have any Mowgli in me. Plenty of people love this movie, so this one might just be personal preference. I did like Scarlett Johansson's snake, though. I thought Kaa was cool. Next on the list, and surprisingly not last, is Snow White. When I saw Snow White, I thought, this is it. Nothing is going to be worse than this movie. This movie was so astonishingly bad, in so many different ways. It's amazing that Disney actually decided to release it in theaters. Did nobody actually watch this movie and recognize how bad it was? Are they so jaded they thought it wouldn't matter? So let's start with the horror. The dwarves. Rather than use real people, they decided that this live-action Snow White would have computer-animated dwarves. And they look like they came from the seventh circle of hell. The dwarves are hideous, with faces like melting brown wax. Everything about them looks horrific. When I saw the trailer for this movie, I swore out loud in a theater full of kids at a showing for Moana 2. Nobody wants to spend 2 hours looking at these melting atrocities. They could have had full-size actors play these dwarves, if using little people was somehow denigrating to them. As evidence, I point to The Lord of the Rings. Gimli, the most famous dwarf of all time, was played by John Rhys Davies, who is 6'1". You can have full-size people as dwarves. You don't have to resort to emptying hell of its minions. Then there's Snow White herself, a Hispanic girl cast as a girl with skin as white as snow. I know hating on Rachel Zegler has become a bit of an internet pastime, but I honestly don't care about her annoying personality in real life. She tries here, but she was foiled by pretty much everything being awful. Her dress looks like it came from the discount rack of a Spirit Halloween store. It looks tacky and cheap and gaudy and like it's going to fall apart at any moment. Her haircut, meant to evoke the original Snow White bob, looks awful. She has a bit of an underbite and a tendency to leave her mouth open, which combined with this haircut gives her a vacant idiot look that seems to be her expression for half the movie. The screenwriter here, Erin Cressida Wilson, has done a ton of stuff I admire. She wrote Secretary and Fur and Girl on a Train. She is one of the most accomplished screenwriters in this list, but her take on Snow White is just plain dumb. She said in an interview that her point of entry to the story was Dopey, that he was an underdog who needed to learn to use his voice. So Wilson has Snow White teach Dopey to whistle. This choice has cascading side effects on the rest of the story. If Dopey can't whistle, that means the dwarves must not know how to whistle, so they had to take out all the whistling from the song Hi-Ho for the new movie. Everything about this is dumb. Because nobody told Wilson this was dumb, the 500-year-old dwarves don't know how to whistle until a teenage girl shows them how. If you want to see a not terrible live-action Snow White, back in 2012 we had 2 competing releases of live Snow White movies, with Mirror Mirror and Snow White and the Huntsman. While neither movie was great, they were both better than the 2025 Disney horror show of Snow White. I honestly thought that Snow White would be the bottom of this list. How could anything be worse than the melting dwarves? I had forgotten that there can always be a worse movie. Below Snow White is the unwatchable movie. Snow White is bad, but you can still make fun of it. The last movie on my list is the live-action Pinocchio from 2022, released on Disney+. I desperately wanted to stop watching Pinocchio. It took me the better part of a day to get through it because I kept pausing to go do anything else. I made banana bread to get out of watching this movie for an hour. Pinocchio was so bad it had me longing for Gal Gadot's campy singing from Snow White. Pinocchio was unwatchably bad, the kind of bad I had to force myself to finish. When trying to describe what's wrong with it, I came up with everything. It's easier to say what's good. I'd like to thank Luke Evans for his singing in this movie. The songs themselves might be terrible, but hey man, thanks for trying. I felt like this film goes wrong right from the start, with Jiminy Cricket talking to himself as the narrator. This conversation begins with a tone of smarmy cleverness that just never goes away. The whole movie feels like it thinks it's very clever. The writing, however, comes across as insufferable. It clearly thinks it's funny, but it goes on and on and on. Pinocchio himself is CG, which is an odd choice for a live-action movie, and he looks terrible. He looks like a plastic demon that has been brought to life by dire magics. His flat eyes are terrifying, and I'd be in the camp of those trying to hack him apart with an axe in real life. He looks like a possessed wooden puppet. This movie was shockingly directed by Roger Zemeckis and stars Tom Hanks. I would have thought it would be impossible for Tom Hanks to be in a bad movie, but they decided to make Geppetto into a shut-in who makes Pinocchio as his version of Wilson the volleyball. Hanks plays Geppetto as a nut with an accent that sometimes veers Italian, but mostly not. I was very glad when this movie was over. Of course, they ruined the ending because nothing in this movie could be allowed to be good, but at least then it was over and I could go do something else. I ranked these movies in descending order because it really demonstrates the base level of competence guiding the company right now. I think everyone is a little surprised that a company like Disney could make a Snow White remake that was this bad, and not notice that it was this bad. Like, how do you not notice how bad this looks? It makes the Disney company look like a zombie that's just skirting by on old IP. Even so, Disney didn't stop making animated movies. It's worth pointing out that even through all the live-action films, Disney still kept a fairly strong release schedule of new animated films, notably with Moana in 2016, Frozen 2 in 2019, Encanto in 2021, and Moana 2 in 2024. These were all huge wins for Disney that pushed the animation behemoth along and forward. So it's not all bad news. And the thing I discovered from going through these films was that a lot of them were actually pretty good. I had a lot of fun going through this list. Pretty much all of them were entertaining in some way. They all represented a lot of work from a lot of very talented people, and even the movies that weren't great still had good parts. This was a weirdly satisfying task, one I enjoyed immensely. But go and watch one of these yourself. You might find one you'd like. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is Rose with Rose Colored Movies.